Hey guys, and welcome back to Sunday Sermon with Ola. This is episode 18. See how I said that with confidence? And yeah, I don't want to waste too much time on this one because I have to kind of organize my thoughts on the fly. I have to say thank yous. Obviously, thank you to everyone who joined in the live and contributed on the discussion about where you'd want to live in the world. Thank you to everybody who supports on Patreon, and thank you to everybody who listens and is sharing this and is commenting on YouTube, downloading it on Spotify, all of this stuff. Much appreciated. Love you all very much. All right, let's go into this topic today because I know this is one that is near and dear to people's hearts. Now, I must say that this is not coming in the same format as some of the others, because which those other one was it? That was we've had one other like congregation supplied topic before, where a topic is suggested by someone who listens, and this is the same with this week's topic. Shout out to Sean Ujo, who wanted to talk about black fathers. One of the reasons why was because of something that I said in the Dope Visuals episode, where I was talking about the fact that I posted a picture with a baby on my chest, and people were like, "Oh, you're gonna be a good dad." One thing that's at play there is obviously the Dope Visuals thing. I was talking about how much people go off of what it looks like, but also there is an element there which is to do with, well, what's the standard, what's the expectation for a dad, or for a black dad, or for or whatever it is, just fathers in general. So wanted to explore this a bit more, and I guess the question that I want to pose to you is, why do we need black dads? And I'm going to have to qualify the question why. I'm going to have to qualify dads, and I'm going to have to qualify why I'm saying specifically black dads, so that we understand where we're all coming from. Now, my views on this have always been, I don't know, it's weird. I've kind of teetered on both ends of this sort of discussion before. I am somebody who spent the vast majority of his life not in contact with my biological father. I had a stepdad for a while, but after my mother and father became divorced, I used to see him, every weekend, and then it was every other weekend, and then there was just one weekend where I was supposed to go to, I think, Alexander's birthday party, and I said no, my dad's picking me up, and he never showed up, and I sat on the step, and it was like a flipping sitcom. It was a shame. So for the most part, it wasn't like that, and I remember being young and like giving my mum Father's Day cards. Thank you for being a mum and a dad and all that kind of stuff. And the sentiment is decent, I think, but I don't subscribe to that ideology now. Um, so I go through that whole process, and having a stepdad and whatnot, and I think I never fully properly dealt with it. Dealing with it was a tough one. I think the first place I started dealing with it was on stage when I was doing stand up, and I used to have this joke. Funny enough, those of you who've been watching me a long time, it started off as a Madeline McCann joke, where I'd say to the crowd, I'm going to do an impression. I ask them to close their eyes. I disappear from the stage, go and hide somewhere, but still have the microphone with me. Tell them to open their eyes and tell them that that was an impression of Madeline McCann. Now, when I was doing it as a Madeline McCann thing, you're probably thinking, "Wow, this guy's wild. How could he be doing jokes like that?" But the thing was, yes, it was some shock factor, but also I wanted to prove this point about the fact that I did all these jokes about starving kids in these Oxfam adverts, and it was funny then. But we're taught to really venerate and cherish the life of this white child. Anyway, I've made that point time and time again, but I still liked the joke, so I redid the joke, but as in, and here's the thing: when I first did the joke, I said this is my impression of the average black father. I remember I even did that at a church event once. It's one of those ones where no one laughs, But when they're doing the closing prayer at the end of the event, they were like, Lord, just heal whatever wounds people have in their hearts. I was like, yo, these thinly veiled sub prayers need to chill. But anyway, I realized after a while that it wasn't saying what I really wanted it to say, that the average black father thing was cheap. What I was talking about was my dad. I was talking about my dad, and I needed to stop making it about average black fathers. Which leads me on to my first point as to why I'm discussing this on the point of black fathers. I feel that in the parent categories, black fathers are the ones that are categorized by the worst of us. I don't think that happens to anybody else. I don't think that happens to anybody else. I think most parenting categories have a good narrative about them overall. I was saying it to someone, I think I was saying it to Emily. I think I was saying to Emily that, um, I mean, if you listen to the lives, you'll know who Emily is. Um, but like, I was saying to Emily that, like, yo, ain't nobody written no songs for us. I was saying it also to my friend of mine, her name's Roxanne. I'm not sure if it was Emily or it was Roxanne I was saying this to. But I was saying, like, nobody writes no songs for us. Come on, man. You got Dear Mama and blah, blah, blah. Yo, the best we could be is a Rolling Stone. Papa was a Rolling Stone. Wherever he laid his hat was his home. So we transient. Like, what we like, even Luther's dad had to die first before he wrote a song for him. It's like we ain't even really got no good narratives. Whereas you, Sweet Mother, Dear Mama, like literally these are songs that are gonna continuously happen over and over and over again. The veneration of the Black Mother is a good thing. I'm not saying the veneration in and of itself is a bad thing. Mothers are to be appreciated, yes, but there is a huge imbalance here. And I don't even know what I mean, I'd love to hear from a white dad if they feel like there is the same. I know that Fathers for Justice definitely feel like, if you don't know what Fathers for Justice are, it's a group of dads here in the UK who fight for fathers' rights, especially because dads often get less. They often win custody of their children less, and so they dress up as superheroes and they scale buildings and unfurl a sign to like show their cause that they're fathers for justice. And these guys, I'm sure they feel hard done by, but overall, I don't think the image of white fathers is of being absent or being neglectful in some way, untrustworthy. Like they're irresponsible, just sexing up a bunch of people. And I'm not somebody who believes that like this doesn't happen. Of course it happens. And it happens in many different races. It's just that I feel like black fathers are the only ones who have to who have to be characterized by the worst in our category. In terms of like a good narrative, there's a good group organization called Dope Black Dads. I'm in the WhatsApp group chat for Dope Black Dads, and the guys who organize that do fantastic work, man. They really do a lot of work in terms of supporting black dads and like really making sure that the imagery and the messaging is one that's progressive, and I'm here for it. That's why I am in the group, and I respect what they do. But this is like one organization against years and years and years of not only like white owned mainstream, because that's the cop out sometimes to be like, oh yeah, the media only shows us blah blah blah. No, so black women got to hold some L's in this because of the stories they repeated to themselves and to their children, to their daughters, and also black men. We've got to hold some L's as well because some of us didn't do enough to challenge these narratives. A lot did, and there's a lot of great fathers out there doing all they can do. But we've got to do a lot more as well to make sure that, being a useless or absentee father is not something that can be condoned in our circles or make sure that every single one of our friends is doing what's appropriate. There's maybe some work we can do, yeah. But I don't know how, I can't father every father. I can only father my children, right? So if we acknowledge that they are out there, why is that the dominant narrative is what I'm asking. And that's the reason why I said, black women. I feel like you have to hold some L's there because I feel like a lot of the PR work has been done by you guys. So, you know, I think if you look at like Father's Day on Black Twitter or whatever it is, I feel like we've had to really make a concerted effort to remind ourselves not to use the day to tear down useless fathers. Like it's so hard to actually celebrate the good ones because it's so much more energy and effort is put into talking to the ones who aren't doing well. No one does that on Mother's Day. There are terrible mothers out there. But no one uses that day to talk about bad mothers. Use it to talk about how much you love your mum, right? So on Father's Day, to start the conversation off with, shout out to all the dads who are actually really there doing what they're supposed to do, as opposed to these useless, worthless dads who are blah blah. Like, yo, what's this energy? Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see the difference in this? I'm not saying they're not there. I'm saying why are they your focus all the time? Now, on the other side of this is that for somebody like myself who is married and has a child, and this might be a good time to mention the fact I got another one on the way, and I also have to say, if you know me personally, you're listening to this right now and you're upset I didn't tell you, forgive me. It's a pandemic. All right, I didn't keep an exact tab on everybody I'm letting know. All right, I'm a father of one, soon to be father of two. It puts me in an awkward position. Why? One, because if people give me props for just simply being present with my kids, I'm throwing every other brother under the bus. I'm essentially saying, like, look, this is the best we can expect from us. And, you're right, I'm a pretty good dad. I showed up today. And by accepting um, that accolade, I'm endorsing that low standard. And I think that's a problem. Because I know for myself and for the fathers that I know, we want more than to just simply be present. We want to actually give our children everything that every other parent wants to give their children who loves their child. You want to give them good opportunities, train them up, discipline them, like give them hope for the future, provide them with safety, teach them, like we want these things too. It's not just to simply like show up and be like, hey, that's my boy, and then like head off. That's not most of us anyway, the ones that I know. That's not our aim in life. So it's a weird one. It's a weird way to interact in this world. So then, for the other, I guess, main question for somebody like myself is to try and figure out what's my role here? What do I do and how do I do it? I told you where I'm coming from in terms of the fathering I've had. It's not like I've got a great example in my own situation that I can say, okay, that's exactly the kind of dad I want to be. Media wise, yo, I tell you what, I tell you the dad I wanted to be growing up. I wanted to be Michael Kyle from My Wife and Kids. I loved Michael Kyle as a dad. Why? He seemed like, first of all, he was loved by his family. Two, he wasn't always the butt of the joke. Sometimes he was the intelligent uh, puppet master of the situation as opposed to the lazy oaf that you get in like Family Guy and The Simpsons. I think Tisha Campbell's a really good comedian's wife or comedian's girlfriend. And this is a point I've made many times. I'm not sure I'm going to go through all of that right now. But the way that they played off each other in Wife and Kids is like, I like their marriage. Um, and I love the fact that he could be vulnerable at times and he could take L's, but then he could also be in a position of strength, and he wasn't, just stupid, and he was funny, and he was cutting and witty and so on. I looked at Michael Carl's like, that's the dad I want to be. And also, he seems to be doing fairly well financially. They were in a pretty nice house in My Wife and Kids, and he had his own business. He was running a trucking company, and on many an occasion, you would see him, you know, lose, whether it's when he went to the Michael Jordan camp or, when the big dad came along or whatever it is. And they went through real things in their storylines, but I really liked him as a dad. But it's like you can't base your entire life off a sitcom, contrary to popular belief. You can't base your life entirely off a sitcom. Sitcoms are just vibes. Because the truth is, like, running his own business, you wouldn't have had time in real life for all those kind of hijinks. You would have constantly been looking at paperwork or this or paperwork that or blah, 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 blah. So it's like, where's the realistic, day to day, tangible touch? Now, I've had, father figures, people I look up to, uncles, um, people in my church, you know what I'm saying? But you're not seeing them on a day to day basis. You're seeing, a version of them. You're seeing them maybe one day a week. You're not seeing what that looks like. So then you have to figure out, like, what does that look like for you now? And also, you have to come to peace with the relationship you have with your mother. And do you know what? Yeah, you can't really say much about single moms because of how tough the journey is. But I've never shied away, so I'm not going to start today. Having been the child of a single mom, there is a huge temptation to build a surrogate marriage between the two. It's not a real marriage, obviously. It's not like that. But the beauty of it and the reason why a lot of single moms are very close to their sons is because a son to a single mom is the perfect husband. It's the perfect husband. You're still his mom. You can tell him exactly what to do, when to do it. He's going to protect you with his life. He's going to forever talk about you positively. He's not going to allow anybody to talk bad about you. He's going to be a protector to you. If you raise him well and you give him opportunities, he makes money, he's going to buy you stuff. Because that's what guys like to do. Buy my mom a house, buy my mom a car. So he's going to provide as well. Now, we should hope that nothing Oedipal is going on and there's no, sexual blah, blah, blah and all that kind of stuff in it. But most of the time, like, especially if there's been a breakdown in a relationship, a woman doesn't need sex in the same way, whatever. So she's like, look, this is feeding every single need I have for affection and so on. And so as a son, you have to figure out a healthy way to come out of that situation to now go and build something new for the future. And sometimes, and this is not really, it's not, the aim of this is not to put down single moms or to put down sons of single moms like myself. But the thing is that sometimes what we go through based on the situation, like you've put in the situation now, you have to become a single mom and so on. We make a doctrine out of it. We start to build our gospel around this. We start to build our lives around this idea. Look, it wasn't meant to be this way, right? But then we start to figure out, we start to make all of our calculations based on these Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm finding it really hard to find the words today, which is weird. But it's like if if let's say for example we all started using tables as chairs because there were no chairs. Eventually, you'd come to the conclusion that people are supposed to sit on tables, right? It would become the norm, so much so that everything when you plan your room and your furniture, you would plan it all based on tables. You'd almost forget the fact that there was supposed to originally have been chairs. They just weren't there at the time. In that way, when you've grown up without a dad in the house, you now start to like visualize families and reproduce families that don't have men in the house. So when you grow up as a man who's supposed to be in the house, you now have to figure out, well, what does that look like? You now have to figure out like how many different misconceptions have I taken on just based on the scenario we were in. It's not anybody's fault per se. It's not here to distribute fault, but it's to say that look, this is not the ideal. We're not aiming for more and more single mums. That's not the hope here. So as a son of a single mum, I'm not aiming to go out there and create single mums. I'm aiming to be a father. And contrary to some people's belief, I don't think a woman knows how to be a father. And I don't think a father knows how to be a mother. You can be a single mother, and that's it. You were a single mother, and you did all the roles you could do, and and to the single fathers as well, same thing. But you can't say I'm being a father and a mother. I really believe that we keep messing with God's formula. I always say this thing that like we keep tweaking God's formula and we don't know the result yet until it happens, and then we like, but it shouldn't be this way. Yeah, but that's because you keep messing with the formula. I believe God gave children, like children had to come together. If you ever used to watch the cartoon Shazam, it's like one of them had a ring and it was like two broken bits. When they put it together and they say Shazam, then Shazam appears. And it was like the fact that you both had to come together for this, genie to show up is a metaphor in many ways for like God created it so that a man and woman would need each other, right? Which is why I really talk so much about marriage, because I think that's the foundation. I think, having a good marriage is one of the best things you can do for your children. Is to show them what good marriage looks like. That's why your marriage has to come first. But the idea is that like you're gonna have checks and balances. You're gonna be each other's blind spot. One of you might be more generous, the other one might be more conservative with money. But you both need each other so the children can be well adjusted. One of you may be more the disciplinarian, one of you may be more lenient, but you both need each other as checks and balances. One parent is almost impossible for them to be the checks and balances on themselves. And this is part of the problem here, is that the allure sometimes of single parenting is that you don't necessarily need your partner, or you need to have like a good marriage sorted, because it's so much negotiation with this other person. Whereas if you just parent by yourself, you can just say this is how I want it done and do it that way. And so it's almost like they're so deeply tied talking about marriage and talking about parenting. I really believe you can't really talk about parenting until you talk about marriage, but that's talk for another day. But what I'm saying here is that like when you start to recognize that you're each other's that basically you guys need to be each other's checks and balances, you need to be different from each other, that's when you realize that like, yo, I'm not going to keep trying to change you into be more like me. I need you to be a dad. If a dad's going to be more like rough in terms of how they play with the kids need that, as well as the gentle touch and cuddle of mum. And understanding that, as a man, you bring something to the table here, I think is the first step for really qualifying what it is to be a black dad and why we even need black fathers. I don't want to take anything away from black mums. I want to add what it is to be a black dad. And hopefully you understand now why I'm saying black, because I feel like there's so much baggage in the community based on history and all the other things that have affected our family structures. But this is not as simple as like, I've got my own money, I don't need you. Right? Because this is what like welfare or higher paying jobs for women can look like. Is that like, well, why do I even really need this man in the house? We'll get it done together. We'll figure it out without him. And I really want to put this as a plug to the brothers as well, that like, yo, don't don't live up to or listen to the story about you that reduces you to a few simple roles and tasks. You're needed. You're needed because you bring something else. If you work on having a good marriage first, bring the children together, make the decisions together, you're going to have the best chance possible of raising well-adjusted children. And who you are as a dad is needed. We do not need another black mum. We need the black mum with the black dad. And sometimes if you only see the veneration of the black mum, you feel like you need to be like the mum in order to be a good parent. No, you need the balance. You need both of you. Anyway, that's my sermon for today. I think we need to increase the narrative around why black dads are so important, what we bring to the table, and it's more than just bringing home a check. It's more than being the boogeyman that your wife uses to scare the kids. Oh, wait till your dad gets home. It's more than that. I still don't even know 100% how I feel about that idea, that concept, where the mums are always like trying to be their child's friend or whatever it is, and so when they need somebody to be the harsh one or the boogeyman, they use the dad. I'm not 100% sure about how I feel about that, because it does work. You can't lie, it works to a certain extent, but at the same time, it's like I don't think there should be that gap. I think you should both be disciplinarians and both be lovers and gentle, warm nurturers of your child. Anyway, let's wrap this up. Guys, join me on the live to discuss it. Black fatherhood, let's go. I know a lot of people got a lot of stuff to get off their chest. Let's talk about it. Join the Patreon as well. I appreciate the love. Stay blessed, guys.